Hello, my name is Piotr Gejgalis and I work as a front-end developer for Codilime, and welcome to the next episode of MobX in React practical examples. This time I want to show you how to integrate MobX with Tanstack React Query. So I have to warn you that this presentation may contain opinionated content, unpopular opinions, and it's suitable for classic single-page applications and has been not validated with server-side rendering. Last time I was trying to solve not trivial fetching features using RxJS. Features like cancellation, retrying on error, polling, when to start and finish getting the data from backend, and all about together combined. So last time it was RxJS. This time I want to present you how to use React Query with MobX. So the React Query is global fetching cache with really great extensive API. It has a lot of built-in features like query cancellation, mutations, window focus refetching, scroll restoration. So this is really nice library, and that's why it's so popular and very easy to get started with. It has also great dev tools, but there is one but. It's not so easy to integrate MobX store with React Query because the API for React is a hook based. So use query is a hook, and MobX store can't use hooks, and this causes another issue that computed state of results from use query and MobX states is possible only in React component. We can't use MobX computed state to access use query data, at least not direct. So this is the hardest part of this integration. I want to present some solution I found with MobX and React IOC, and I'm going to use Query Observer, which is also exported from Tanstack React Query, which gives us possibility to access React Query cache without use query hook. So I'm going to use Query Observer subscription to mutate MobX observable state. This is a trivial solution example. Let me explain step by step this code. The first line is query client injection because we need that to use Query Observer. The next one is MobX observable object. At the beginning it's empty, and I use configuration for shallow instrumentation. So I just want to observe the top level properties changes and not the deeper. And then we have a getter for some movies data from the backend. We instantiate the query observer. We put the query client in the constructor and also options. Those options are the same API that you are familiar with using useQuery API. So you can put here everything that you previously used with useQuery hook. Later on, I'm getting the initial result from the React Query cache, because sometimes you can also pass initial data in those options. So in this line, we are going to have in this object is loading, is error, data, all those properties will be populated at the beginning. And after that, we are subscribing to the changes that React Query is doing under the hood. And every change is making some result. And this result will be assigned again to the movies query result. All right, and whenever those subscriptions have been started, we always return in this getter the movies query result. So we always get the same reference to the MobX observable state, which will be mutated in the runtime when the data are coming from the backend. Okay, so let's jump to the demo part where I'm going to use this store with real application. Let me introduce the application where I'm using use query hooks. Then during the demo, I want to migrate from use query hook to MobX store with some MobX query integration. So at the beginning, I want to show you how the query client is provided in this application. I'm using these options as a default. I don't want to refetch on window focus for the demo purposes. I don't want to retry on errors, and the stale time for the cache is for now infinity. And I'm using query client provider, which wraps the whole application that I made. And I'm also using React Query DevTools. So we are going to see all those caches here in the nice UI. And my application is very simple. We got the movies endpoint, which shows the list of the movies, which can be filtered on the client side. And when you click to the movie, you can see the more details, and you can also vote for the movie, and you can see that after voting the data are refreshed and we can see the new state of the votes. So that's the basic functionality of this application, and all those components are located in movies module. Movies module is a routing for two components, movies list and movie details. Let's start with the simpler one, the movies list. Movies list is a component which provides a movies list store, and movies list store has just the searching state. So when I type anything here, it's stored in the movies list store. I'm using also use query to get data from the backend. So I chose the movies query key. So we can see this key here in the DevTools. We can also use, let's say, reset. So we see that data are fetching. We can invalidate, so everything is updated live in the UI. We use actions for getting data from backend, and this is very nice that React Query supports cancellation HTTP request by serving us the ready signal, so we can pass it to the actions or any other fetching library. So this is great. And yeah, later on we have a computed state filtered movies on inside React component, which combines the result from the use query and also search query state from the MobX store. And this is how the filtering is implemented. So it doesn't matter if I type uppercase or lowercase. This simple filter just checks if title to lowercase includes search query to lowercase. Yeah, and later on we have different branches in the code for loading state, error state. and I made this backend to get data very slow, so we can see the loading label at the top, and later on we just render those links, nothing fancy. Okay, so now we want to refactor this code to get rid of this use query in favor of a MobX store, which is going to access the React query cache. To do that, I made the store that I presented previously in the presentation, but the store requires to inject query client. So I have to go back to the application module where I'm providing the query client inside the application, and I have to also provide this query client in React IOC container. So I'm going to provide query client with some helper like this. Okay, and then a lot of parts. All right, so now I should be able to use a query client in both in hooks because we use query client provider, but also in React IOC injections by query client reference. So let me go to the component and let me provide this movie store. Yes, this store is written in JavaScript because I wanted to avoid a mess of the types just for the demo purposes. So now I can also access this movie store like this. Movie store. All right, and I have movies there. All right, so now I can get rid of use query. I can save it. Let me clear the imports. Now we see TypeScript errors, but please ignore that. When I refresh the code, it works. Now we use movie store with the movies for getting data. So there is no use query anymore. And yeah, this is great because now we can use MobX computed properties, computed state, to implement this filtering. But before I start to refactor that, let me show you something else. Because here in the movie store, I made some very trivial implementation. When I go back to the home and again to the movies, we see that the observers counter is growing. So I didn't unobserve the query observer subscription. So this implementation causes memory leaks. It's not generic because it uses some hard-coded keys and functions. So let me show you more generic implementation. It's very similar, but also allows us to unsubscribe from the observation, and it also supports default options made in query client, so it's more advanced. And I also prepared the TypeScript version, which has a lot of generic types. That's why I wanted to avoid it previously. So yeah, this is my final solution: how to integrate MobX with React query. So let me use this implementation in movies list store. Yeah, this store is representing this search state. It has just one getter, one action, set search query, and now I'm going to add some movies query result, and this is a MobX query. This is my implementation, and now we need the code that we used here. We need query key, query function. Okay, let me save it, and now I can expose it outside by get movies, and this generic implementation has just the query method. All right, let me switch in the application from the old one, from the trivial implementation to the more advanced. All right, and I have some yes, I have type error because I didn't provide the get movies response data. This is a type of the backend response. All right, let me go to the application back, clear the code. Okay, after refreshing, yes, let's check if searching is working. It's working. All right, so now I have more states inside one movies list store. So I have a backend state, I have client state, and currently I'm able finally to implement this computed state. So let me copy this code and let me prepare the computed property, filtered movies. Okay, instead of movies I have these movies. Instead of search query I have this search query. All right, let's save it, and now I can get rid of this use memo in favor of this property. Okay, let me refresh to be sure, and yes, that works. This is the holy grail of MobX and React query integration. So we can use all the benefits of having both. We can use great caching and fetching API from React query, and we can also use computed cache of the MobX in one file. Now it's time to check the memory leaks. Okay, when I go to home, I see that observers counter is still 1. When I get back to the movies, I see the counter is increasing. So when I go back and forth, the counter is going crazy. So that's because while this movie list component is unmounted, it doesn't unsubscribe being the changes from the React query. To do that, I can use dispose method, which is used by React IOC, which is called by React IOC while the component is unmounted. So now I can tell that movies query results should be disposed. This dispose method just unsubscribes from query observer. Now let me check if that works. Let me refresh. Okay, when I go back, now we see the counter is empty. So yes, that works fine. So remember always to add this code. Yeah, this is a drawback. It's very easy to forget about it. Now it's time for the more difficult, because here in the movie details we have more advanced code. We have a use query for the movie, and we have also mutation. This mutation sends post request to the backend, and then it invalidates queries for this movie. Yes, so let me switch to the MobX store also in this functionality. Okay, so let me create the store for this view, because I'm using here just the hooks. So let me create the file, movie details store ts, export class movie details store. Okay, now I'm going to provide this class in the component. So let me use provider. Right, and inside the store I want to have the movie details query result, and this is what we use here. Okay, so it's going to be new MobX query, get movie details response type, and now I can use configuration. And now we have a problem, because movie ID in this functionality is dynamic. It comes from URL. So we can't use this query key here. Instead, we can provide the method getMovie, where we can return this movie detail query, and we can put this query key here. So we can do something like that. All right. So this is the way how we can access a React query cache with dynamic keys. All right, so let me change this code to get rid of this movie. Let me provide this store, movie details store, and yes, I can do like this. Let me save it and refresh the application. It works. All right. So if I switch to the another movie, this one is not existing, so the backend raised the error. Let me go to the valid one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it works. And what next? We have also a mutation. I also made integration for mutations, but with a little bit different API. Let me increment favs mutation, increment favs mutation, MobX mutation, where we can also apply those options that you know from use mutation hook. What I see, I need a query client here, so I have to inject query client, so I can use it. Right, and this is also TypeScript error. I have to type the variables. Okay, it's gone. And now I want to get rid of this. Oh, I don't need query client anymore. Okay. And here I can use store like this. Okay, let me refresh. Okay, it works. When I'm voting, then after successful vote, this line is executed, which invalidates a query for this particular movie, and everything is fetching like a glance. All right, so you see that it's possible to integrate React Query cache with MobX stores in a very nice way, and we have benefits of computed cache of the MobX with cache of React Query in the same file in the same store. So in my opinion, this is the greatest thing of this integration. All right, so let's jump to summarize what we did. So let's start with benefits. With such integration, we have access to very advanced fetching cache inside the MobX store. This caching API is familiar and convenient for developers, and this is very important personally for me. So now the computed state can be moved from React component to MobX when we need to combine server state with client state. There are also some drawbacks. Sometimes we forget to add the .dispose call to unsubscribe from the React query. And if you are not familiar with React IOC and you want to integrate React query with MobX from scratch, then it can be more complicated for concurrent mode in React 18. Thank you for watching. The code I shown you in this presentation is available on GitHub. The link should be in the description, and see you in the next episodes. Bye.